I'm now recording an update for F5. In recent weeks, the examiner has just published an article that will be effective from the June 2009 exam onwards. In the article, the emphasis was on the ideas of how to make F5 a better exam for you to take. All we have to pick up from this article is something very simple. In the past, there used to be 4 questions in the exam, each of 25 marks. The new exam format is going to examine exactly the same techniques and methods as before, but with a view to better reflect what is in the syllabus. We now have 5 questions of 20 marks each. Now, given that there are 5 questions of 20 marks, does that change much from your perspective? Well, I think the one thing that it does do is it helps you slightly. And that's because if you look at the F5 syllabus, there are 5 distinct areas. And of course, in the old format, it was likely that one of those areas was always going to be missing from the exam. Your examiner now is going to have 5 questions, and we would expect each of the 5 areas to be examined. We would expect costing methods each and every time. We would expect decision making each and every time, and so on for the other areas. A bit of budgeting, a bit of variances, or if you wish, standard costing, and a bit of performance measurement. Now, I can't promise this, but I would guess that this is what the examiner wants to do. We've got 5 core parts of the syllabus, and that means that you will be rewarded for learning everything. Question spotting was never a good thing in this exam. Now, well, question spotting is completely out of the window. Now, what does this mean from the way in which we're going to approach the exam? Well, if you think about it, when we look at the time available, we had our reading time, and the exam proper. As far as I'm concerned, when you look at the reading time, the only thing that you're going to focus on are the requirements. You're going to look at each requirement in turn, nothing else, to understand what it is that the examiner wants. By focusing on the requirements, you're able to break up each and every one of the questions. You're going to be able to assess how many marks you should be able to score from each question, and hence which question to do first. And you're going to get a feel for the overall requirement that the examiner is going for. If we're looking at the 3 hours of the exam proper, we know that we have 1.8 minutes per mark. We multiply that by 20 marks for each question, and that gives us very simply 36 minutes per question. My only thought is, when you come to plan anything in the exam, you've got to make it simple. And one of the rules that I always have in any exam is that you do not try to micromanage the time. You cannot manage the time to individual minutes. So my simple thought here is this. Instead of 36 minutes, we take 35 minutes on each question. Theoretically, that gives us 5 minutes at the end of the exam to wave to our friends, or maybe more seriously, to review what we've done. But the simple fact is that by taking it to 35 minutes, we are better able to manage our time. 5-minute slots are wholly possible to manage. For example, if we have a question that runs to, say, 8 marks and 7 marks and 5 marks, well, how much time are we going to allocate to each? 8 multiplied by 1.8 gives us something like 15 minutes. 7 multiplied by 1.8. Well, what do we get? Slightly less here. Do we round up to 15 minutes or down to 10 minutes? It's up to you. You would assess it, but maybe we give 10 minutes to this slot and 10 minutes to that slot. That's my advice every single time. If you can manage your time throughout, there is going to be no problem. Remember, the examiner has broken down the questions in this way, 20 markers, to attempt to assist you. And I'm inclined to think it is going to make life slightly better for you, because I'm reckoning we're still going to keep the mathematical content in each question quite similar to what we had before. And that probably means that there's going to be a little bit less comment, a little bit less discussion. And for the majority of students, that is something that most of us would want. That's it.